Hello, I'm Renee Floor, and I've been the owner-operator for 5 years of America's finest crime scene cleaning company.
Hey guys, this is Michael. I've been working with Renee for coming on 3 years now, a year as his general manager, and loving the experiences that every day brings us in this industry.
Hi, my name is Holly Taylor, and I've been in the hazmat industry for 5 years, and I'm finally ready to share my journey with you.
And I'm Sam. I'm a videographer and sound engineer, and I've been working with Renee for about a year now.
In a phrase, life less ordinary leads to interests that are less ordinary. So, we are the sum of our experiences. And as I look back, parents were hippies from Europe, traveled around until I was 4 throughout Europe and came to America on a tourist visa. Yeah, undocumented. 2 hippie parents from Europe wanted to understand the myth of America. All the great monuments, things that we know and take for granted here in America were all new to them. And they just kept traveling. We just kept traveling for 4 years until at age 8, landed on a commune and enjoyed the freedom of working with others and taking care of animals and everything that a commune provides you with other people living with you in the community. At a certain age, around 12, understood to normalize some things. And when I mean normalization is really kind of fitting into how society works, a 9-to-5 job, something more secure in a neighborhood that's part of a city, being a part of a junior high, a high school. But found my way out of Florida and into Berkeley. At 17, traveled across America to start a college career. Started off as a genetic engineering student major. Quickly changed into liberal arts. Spent a year abroad. Really opened up a lot of things for me, not just to look for a career that was a science career, a job that would be a craft. It was really what I wanted for stability as a 17-year-old kid. And I learned how to relax a bit and do some of the things that I enjoyed versus the things that I thought I had to do. And after having graduated, I purposely chose careers where, in a sense, I was controlling a bit of chaos, right? Jumping into a career in retail where you've got the public, all kinds of folks working for you, all kinds of different folks walking into your establishment. There's a lot of things that are unpredictable. So I enjoyed that. I understand that. I wanted to learn more of the business aspects behind how to serve a public, how to serve folks that work for me, managing other associates in a business. Their livelihood depends on some of the things that we decide to do. Successful businesses allow people to have more employment. A happier work environment allows them to thrive. And then at some point, realized that I wanted to serve the underserved and pointedly looked for positions in the nonprofit world. First choice I made was food distribution for nonprofits, food banks around the country, understanding what their limitations are, what their constraints are, what their budgets are, how to provide nutritious food at a lower cost so more people can enjoy them, and really got involved in that. But I wanted more. I wanted to affect the community I was a part of. I wanted to get outside of the office. I wanted to be hands on. And when I saw our industry in biohazard remediation, it's such a wide variety. But what drew me to starting a company is when I started to understand at the point where someone dies in a family, Joe Public, which is me at the time, and now I'm more into it, but I had no idea that the government just doesn't help you with your loved one. They do help you. However, they don't always help you with transportation of your lost family member, right? Oftentimes the family is there. They don't have any idea what to do next. Like, I thought the morgue, I thought the coroner, I thought the medical examiner was just going to help me and take my loved one to the next place. That is not the case. And certainly, if there are extenuating circumstances to how someone passes away, you certainly don't want to understand how a family is asked to remediate after their loved one who has passed away in a variety of different ways. The scars that affect your psyche about the last images you see your loved one is very traumatic. So, when knowing that there wasn't a governmental agency that automatically comes through and remediates after a crime scene or where someone has passed away, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to help people with that. I've got enough science in my background. I enjoy handling and managing chaos, and I really want to help my community. So the two things I come back to are purpose and identity. My identity is to help, my purpose is to help. And then if I can bring on other techs and folks to my business that also have the same mindset, then it just grows from there. So, in a sense, paying it forward, and the amount of things that you see, every scene is different. Every scene is different. But what always rings true is that always doing the right thing. There is never a wrong time to do the right thing. And so as things are presented to you, as you see them, always defaulting to what is the best thing we can do at this point to shield a family, to protect them from further traumatization, and creating an environment that is safe, not only physically for them to return to, but more emotionally safe for them to return to. I know in our industry, some companies like to say, we return things, as if something has never happened. Well, I don't know if that's true, but we bring it to a state where it's safe to return to and as cosmetically palatable as possible. And we really go into an environment not just addressing the actual bio scene, but everything around it, right? When the family comes back to the member who has passed away and their lifestyle, we want to make sure that it's as palatable as possible, as safe as possible, right? And that's our mission, is to put ourselves in the shoes of what a family member could see, and to protect them. And we are invited into a sanctuary. Sometimes that sanctuary presents itself as a hoarding situation, or someone has been alone or traumatized by something, and they are in this situation where the stuff they surround themselves with allows them to feel comforted, feel less alone, and it gets to a place where it's not safe, right? That's a sanctuary. We're allowed into that space. It's a private space. And no less private is when you're allowed to work in a space where a family member has passed. We don't take that lightly. In fact, a lot of us even volunteer to understand more about what a family is going through. A lot of us are grieving counselors. We work with victims advocate groups. It's because we just don't want to just come in and just clean. Of course, being technical cleaners is very important, right? Using the right chemicals is really important. The right technique, the right OSHA, all of that stuff has to be done. But we add humanity to it. And that's important, because when you walk away engaging with families who have experienced tremendous amount of loss, how can you make the next moments in their life better, right? And what does that do for you? Because at the end of the day, you're walking away with memories of that engagement, and hopefully it'll allow you to understand humanity just a bit better. And that's why we're here. So we want to share those experiences with you, not in a salacious way, not for clickbait. We want to share with you what that world looks like, um, how everybody in our community can be sensitive to the struggles of other people, right? Um, if you haven't seen someone come out of their home and there's tinfoil on their windows, sometimes a knock at the door is a good place to start and asking, "Hey, what's going on? How can I help you?" Right? We see it when it's much further down the road, right? We drive into a community we don't live in and see the effects of someone's trauma. But if we share enough about how we help the community, and if that is your neighbor, what can you look for? How can we help you with any part of it? And it starts with the person that lives right next to you in your community, right? Uh, let's look at history because that makes a difference, right? So 2020 is the time where COVID really smacked us in the face. I mean, we were hit with, gosh, we're washing our groceries and I was running grocery routes for the elderly because they didn't want to leave their homes, right? And so here I am in a food distribution company with channels locked up. It was just a different time. And I started to say to myself, how can I better serve my community? And when I started looking at the kind of businesses I could open up and how to do that, when I saw the biohazard remediation field, I thought, oh my gosh, I can not only help folks that are challenged with COVID sanitation and how to make sure their businesses are safe, whether it's in a business or a governmental agency or at home, people just didn't know how to solve the issues of the spread of COVID. And I thought, my goodness, this is where I need to be. And coupled with the fact that, gosh, we're not seeing the elderly. So there's a rise in hoarding. And because there's less family connection, and people are now dying alone because they're not getting visited by family because of COVID, right? So now you've got unattended death. So all these things started to hit me, and I thought, I've got to jump into this and make a difference. And that's how it all started 5 years ago. I mean, look, we started hearing about COVID in the world, I think I want to say at the end of 2019, and really became concerned about it here in America, the beginning part of 2020, if my memory serves. And that's exactly when we opened this business in the beginning of 2020. And now here we are. So that's kind of the origin and why we jumped in. Again, you act locally, you think globally, and it all comes together. And that's really what we started to do. And it just grows from there, right? You see where the journey takes you. It started with COVID, and then getting into some of the biohazards of crime scenes and scenes where death has occurred, right? And then it leads to causes of death. One of them is drugs. One of them is fentanyl. And so we go in with eyes wide open. When we see something, we become more informed and we arm ourselves to protect ourselves and our customers. So we follow that path, right? So the more that we get exposed to, the more that we learn, the more we get involved in the chemistry of it, the chemicals, the equipment, the training, and hopefully better serve our customers in more ways than one. And now I'd like to pass it over to Holly. And you know a little bit about her. She has seen it all. What do you got on this, Holly?
So I'm originally from a really small city in a really small state. I grew up surrounded by death, alcoholism, addiction. Um, and as I grew older, it rubbed off onto me, and I was a really, really bad addict. I mean, I still am technically recovering. But I was very active in my teens and my 20s. Um, Basically anything I would use anything. Um, I As I got a little bit older, I started maturing a little bit. I met the right people. After going to school for a couple years, I ended up moving across the country, and I enjoyed my forensic classes and I enjoyed the scientific side of the criminal justice spectrum. But I just realized it wasn't for me. I still wanted to stay in forensics or something that had to do with forensics, anything on crime scenes. So I looked into becoming a hazmat cleaner. I realized that crime scene cleaning and trauma cleaning were a pretty new industry, and I wanted to learn a little more about it. So I actually cold called Renee and asked him for a job. That was the beginning of that. I've experienced enough probably to write a book, and I am really excited to share all my experiences with people.
Holly was my first hire, and it was kismet. So I'll tell you what led to this, right? So, yeah, she cold called me out of the blue, which I love, right? There's two types of folks that when you talk about what you do or you wear your logo on your shirt, they're like, hey, what is that? You're standing in Home Depot line and someone says, hey, what is that? And they lean into you when you start to tell them what it is, they're interested and they're probably interesting, right? And the other folks lean away and go, oh my gosh, I don't know how you do that, right? Holly definitely leaned in. When you call somebody out of the blue, now imagine you've come from the other side of the country to California. You can't come too much further, right? You're looking at someone who wants a change, something different. And to cold call you out of the blue and say, hey, I'm interested in this. And I looked at her background and I thought, caregiving, interest in forensic science, in criminology, those were the ingredients. And they cemented themselves when I saw her. Cute as a button, pigtails, bright-eyed, eager, wanting to know more, wanting to learn, and fucking fearless. That's what I saw. And I said, I'm done. I want her. I want her to be a part of our team. I immediately saw a partner who was invested, who had a heart, who cared, and the rest of what we do, you learn because you can't learn heart, you can't learn curiosity, you cannot learn engagement. Those are your core your core characteristics. And from there you build, and that's the foundation. Holly's the benchmark for what I look for as a partner. And because when you're in a scene, you have to trust somebody with your life at some point. When you don't know what you're walking into, someone's got to get your six and you got to get theirs. And so if you're willing to share your life with somebody on a scene, a lot like the military or first responders, you got to know what they're all about. So being honest and vulnerable is absolutely what we have to have on our team, and that's what I saw in Holly from the get go, and still do. And now let's hear from Michael, another one of our leaders in the company who has just been on so many jobs. Michael, what do you got?
Hey guys, so Michael, I'm 32. I'm very happy to have found this work. It's so rewarding. It gives me the drive to push myself forward and want to be successful and want to help out this amazing family of technicians that I've found. I've always had a draw towards helping people. It was ingrained even at a very young age from my parents, but I never really had a solid idea of what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew that it had to involve taking care of people, just some sort of service where I could help. For this, I had been all around. I'd worked retail, service work, grocery clerk, barista, just following any opportunities I could to hopefully find a field that I was very interested in. Originally, I started working with Renee from him needing some extra hands on a COVID and odor contract with a car rental agency. Immediately, I enjoyed the technical work. I really enjoyed delving into it, and I wanted to take on more. So I tried to take on more of that contract until one day I was asked to join in on a bio job, and it was history from there. I loved being able to help. I get to see the effects, the before and after. I loved it, and I wanted to keep growing until I was asked to join as a general manager. Very happy to have found this space where I can provide care towards others through some of the worst situations they could be going through. And I'm just happy to continue to grow with this team.
So that brings us to Michael. Michael is part of our leadership team, and again, when he talks about having started with us in a contract with a rental car agency. It was every day, 20 cars a day, fairly repetitive work, following a procedure, right? And I had like, I don't know, 6 to 8 different part-time people working a night shift, a short hour night shift. And he was getting up early. I mean, really early. When you work in the coffee service business, you could get up at like 4 in the morning. So to turn around and do a 6 p.m. shift, I knew that I was working with somebody who was just hardworking, right? And I had 6 or 8 different people, like I said, doing the job. And then I had one who stuck out, and Michael was the one that stuck out because every time I would pop in to either jump in and help if we had more cars than expected, or just to, I don't know, drop off pizza or supplies or just help out, Michael was always the one that had a smile on his face. Michael was always the one that was whistling. He was always the one pumping everybody up. He was always the one that had an idea. I mean, always the one having an idea on how to do it better, how to take care of the equipment better, how to take care of our people better. And when you see that amount of energy on caregiving, on looking out for others, on being that person that wants to make folks around you happy, that's what I saw in Michael. And so when I said, "Hey, come along. If you've not done a bio job before, let's get in there and take a look at it." And his attention to detail on bio was above my other techs. He asked questions. He would spend more time detailing. He was better at replenishment and taking care of the equipment. And so when you think about a job, right, it could be a 6 or 8 or 10 hour day. And at the end of that, to take care of your own equipment, to clean it, to put it away correctly, to restock it, is honestly not the first thing on everyone's mind after a full day in a suit where you've been sweating and putting your head down and working on the scene and prioritizing the customer and the client, right? That's absolutely what I would want the average tech to do, is to take care of safety and take care of the client. Those are the most important things. But Michael, he would do that and then more later. So I said, okay, let's just see where this goes, and giving him more responsibility. And it's because, again, he's the first one to tell you, I've done all kinds of jobs, retail, clerking, service industry, food industry, right? And it's not necessarily about the types of experiences, but what you get out of them and who you are that lends itself to this business, because the rest we can teach you. Again, we don't hire assholes, right? And what I mean by that is that you can't be in your own silo worried about your own stuff all the time. You can't. Not in this business. You rarely go alone, and you usually go in pairs or better. It's because you pair people up to take care of each other and the client, right? And so that the most important thing about working for our company is caregiving mentality of caring about each other and making it safe for the people that you work with, for yourself, and for the client. So when you start to demonstrate that, then we look at the capacity to learn other technical components of our business, and then you grow from there. And finally, the last member of our team, Sam.
Biohazard cleaner was actually one of the first jobs I was ever interested in. In high school, when I was about 17, I actually applied for it. At the time, I think I was just, if I'm being honest, it was more like morbid curiosity. I've kind of always had an interest in seeing things that people don't really get to see. My main trade is as a videographer and as a filmmaker and an artist, so that was really my focus for years after that. But then last year, I had an opportunity to work with Renee on a job, and what I found after doing the work is that there really is something about it which is sort of spiritually fulfilling. Historically, the people who cared for the dead, they were usually spiritual leaders, priests, shamans, and so on. And I think there really is something about it that it feels like a grave responsibility. It feels important, and it's fulfilling. You go into a horde sometimes, and there's just this sort of almost atmosphere of just despair and misery. Like you can just sort of feel the unhappiness of that person in the air almost. And you think, man, how could anybody ever live here again. Then you work on it for a day or two, and I mean, it smells better, it looks better, it's clean and ready for another person to inhabit. One of the earliest signs that we have of human intelligence is burial sites, that people care for their dead and they show respect to the dead, and they treat the body with consideration. So I think there's something about that which is very core to humanity. Renee's been very supportive of wanting to document what we do. He's open to new ideas about, how to tell the stories of our business. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of a win-win because it's something that I find inherently interesting, and then I also get to continue to develop my creative skills. So it's been exciting for me.
All right, let me tell you about the story of Sam. And we're not videoing here, right? Maybe we will. Sam is, I don't know, 6'2", pretty lean, shaven head, got the standard glasses on, kind of like from that Michael Douglas movie. Fallen Down, I think is the movie. So he's got kind of a retro feel to him, right? Kid could be right out of the maybe his persona looks a little like out of the 50s, right? So kind of buttoned down, traditional. Comes in usually with a black shirt, maybe some camos. And I remember we needed extra help in December with a pretty complex hoard. Second floor, a lot of stairs, and just density of stuff. All catalog, games, comic books, stuff that probably has a lot of value, right? So it took a lot of hands not only to just remove unwanted items, but maybe earmark some things for charity and earmark things for archive and in between some gross filth, right? So we just needed more hands. And I didn't know Sam from Adam, right? Here's this quiet kid. I call him a kid because I'm 100 and he's not. But I'm like, wow, I don't know anything about this quiet guy. And he looks like, we call him Shooter Sam because he looks like he could be at the top of a clock tower. But here's the lesson. You don't always go with the cover. The quiet guy, you look in his eyes and you see the movement of someone who's observing, learning, and somewhere documenting what he's taking out of this. And then when you get to know him, holy fuck, is the kid smart, right? And it's just so unassuming. It's so humble the way he presents his capabilities, his capacity to learn, the heart that he has. It's all internally manifested, but it's there. And when you talk about it, wow, does it show up? And then when you try to recap, or when you begin to recap a scenario, he's gotten way more out of it than a lot of people, and then more out of it than you think he would have. So this is the power of our team. I comedically call it the land of misfit toys because guess what? If you've ever seen the movie Brazil and you see all these little toys that are created and they're all like kind of funky, that's our world a bit. And I don't mean that in a kind of a demeaning way, because I call myself a misfit toy too. We all have these special superpowers and abilities, but they're unassuming, and you'd never know until you actually got into it. And that's who we hire. So when Sam came on board, I didn't know what I had, but I'm like, hey, let it rip, let it go. And I got to tell you, just the stamina, the ability to adjust, pivot, and learn, and the interest, and to not really take any criticism or critique personally, just rolling with it calmly. And you start to realize, oh, there's way more there. And so the fact that he's a part of our team and shares his strengths and abilities with the introspective part of what we do as kind of our, I guess, our MC or our mediator or our third party omniscient voice, is just a gift. Well, that's a little bit about us. And what's important about sharing about us is that you understand a little bit where we come from and our styles. Some are more pensive. Some like to reflect. Some have more experiences. They just want to share real life experiences. So I would warn you that our content can be raw. We try to really be as sensitive and understanding of the variety of audiences we have and cater to, and certainly have empathy, but we're gonna share what we see as honestly as possible. And so really our next episode is unfortunately one of the fastest growing dangerous trends in America, and it's fentanyl or high fructose syrup. I can't remember which, but we do remediate one and not the other. I think it's fentanyl. Yeah, we remediate for that, and there's a reason. It's because it's there. You can't see it sometimes, but it's there, and simply ignoring it is not a solution. We're here to clean up after the aftermath and make that scene safer, to make our community safer, to make our children safer, to help our first responders when they come into contact. We are that resource. And so we're going to talk more openly about that next go around. Just hold on. It gets graphic. We'll see you next week.